agenda, influences other than what's best for Lake Forest. Joe, I kind of get where you're coming from. Rick, you want to start?
I'll be glad to. Actually, we'll go back to Mr. Moorhead again, who said that Prue will take us to where we need to go, not where we want to go, and make Lake Forest into a shining city on a hill. This smacks of really bad policy and having an agenda, having a very clear agenda other than running the municipal government of Lake Forest in a competent manner. Yes, clearly, Prue has an agenda. Her spokesman says she has an agenda, and unfortunately, I think that she will try to take the city in different directions than what we have been in the past.
Skoo?
I think Randy's only agenda is what's right for the city and how he can make it better and improve, and which is a good agenda if it's called an agenda. Prue, again, she ran. This is her third time. She didn't get selected. She had an agenda because she did say that it's time for a woman. So that's agenda one. And she goes against, the whole premise on the caucus committee is checking your partisanship at the door, not having an agenda and having enough time to serve, whether it's the caucus committee, the boards, the aldermen, whatever it is. Those are the three. She has shown that she can't do any of those. And she had the support of the caucus for years as an alderman, and if it's not good for her, then it's not good. And she said she supports the caucus, but then again she was saying, not in public, that she doesn't support the caucus. So she clearly has an agenda, and what's it going to be? If she gets elected, how are you going to implement that stuff? And the other thing is she can't get along with the city employees. That's going to be a big one. And, I think there's agendas behind that too, that people don't understand.
I'm going to take this next one and go back to Joe with it. Is it really Prue's agenda or is it Susan Garrett's agenda, Joe?
Well, it's certainly been raised into question. I mean, they seem to be glued at the hip. It's she, and if you look at Susan Garrett's record she took $150,000 from Mike Madigan, voted twice to reelect him as speaker, voted for the largest income tax in Illinois history. Is that the agenda of Prue if she gets in? We've seen these things happen. I've talked about this on previous shows. We've seen these things happen in other communities where after a while they start doing really crazy, dumb ideas like taxes on bags and taxes on cans of pop. And, just this past week on her Facebook page, there was someone who said, hey, you should look into a composting program. I've lived in other communities that have done that. And Prue's campaign, or whoever does her Facebook, clicked yes. And composting on its own is fine, but Skokie's doing that. And as a result of doing that, they got rid of that second garbage pickup each week. Now it's just once a week garbage pickup. And I think a lot of residents of Lake Forest would be very upset if we went to just a once a week garbage pickup and said, well, it's because you're going to compost more and stuff like that. I think there is some crazy ideas that she's embraced directly or indirectly that people need to think about. And, I've brought them up in the public forums of social media and stuff like that. If I had been her and I wasn't going to do those things, I would have come right out and said, no, I'm against taxing bags. I'm against getting rid of the second garbage pickup. I'm against
a lot of money to Tony Preckwinkle, the soda tax.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think there's some questions about judgment, and then we'll save the public safety debate, but just the thought that you would think that two candidates for state's attorney that are strongly disliked by every law enforcement organization in the state, that you would not just support, but give thousands of dollars to, partially because your daughter-in-law worked in the office. That all of these things lead to me questions of her judgment. And I think she has poor judgment.
I mean, we don't know why she made those contributions. She made contributions to lots of Democratic politicians. It could be completely unrelated to her daughter-in-law's employment. I
certainly could, but you know what? Then it's been raised in the public forums, public debate. Address it. Exactly. If you don't address it, then what's going on?
But I mean, everyone donates to their causes and all that, so it's just, I don't know. I don't really.
But Skoo, she's brought up
that if you're running against the caucus in Lake Forest, guys, you have to raise money. Period. Just like the caucus has to raise money, and people screaming in Lake Forest, oh yeah, the caucus is garnering money enough. That's the whole idea. They have to raise money to fend off people running against the caucus. So that's a natural progression. Just like if you run against the caucus, you have to pony up your own money. And if you pony up $1 million to be a mayor, and still people have to vote. And
she's brought up a couple times how previous mayors have given donations here and there, and I think Rob Lansing has given some donations, and George Pandelian gave like $200 to Julie Morrison or something. I looked it up. But I mean, these are small amounts. And again, everyone has political views. No one's denying that. But we've never had a mayor who has been a mega donor, a super donor, a hyper partisan donor like this. $1 million.
We don't know that.
We do know that. We can look at the FEC and state board records, and no one's given $1 million before.
You've gone back on every mayor in Lake Forest and checked
on that? I've looked at the last few.
Okay.
I have
no one given $1 million.
I will vouch for that. But the next point,
and I would say the same thing about Dick Uihlein too. If Dick Uihlein or Liz Uihlein was running for mayor, these issues would be brought up as well.
But Dick Uihlein ran for mayor of Lake Forest. He certainly clearly that would be an issue.
Yeah, but let's throw this. You're saying if Dick Uihlein ran against the caucus, what if Dick Uihlein was selected by the caucus?
I think it would still be an issue. I mean, when somebody gives the kind of money,
I don't think he would be selected by the caucus, because I think the concerns about the partisanship would come up. And I don't have anything against Dick Uihlein. I don't have anything against Prue Beidler.
No.
I'm just saying, when you get that up there in terms of partisanship, and you try to claim that you're a nonpartisan candidate, it's BS.
Where I'm going with that, the thing on the agenda is, Prue's not doing this by herself. This is a well-organized.
Prue couldn't do it by herself.
That's kind of what I'm saying. So,
all these people.
Right. So
she demonstrated that at the forum, when all she did was every time Randy spoke about issues or whatever questions he were asking, she was nodding in agreement. That's why she clearly cannot do what she did. And I would not say she could do what she did or what she's done going into businesses. That's not like Prue. Prue would never do that. But she's being coerced and coached to do that type of crap. Or if she doesn't want to do it.
That's kind of where I'm going with on the agenda part. It's part of a bigger, I don't want to say scheme, but the more money that you have involved, okay, when you have $1 million versus 0, okay, I take it back. Tack did donate to the caucus. All right, shame on him. But when you have
there's not 0.
Tack, Randy Tack, 0.
But it's not something that would indicate a particular bias or agenda, if in answer to your point.
If I had a gun in my head,
one person donates versus another person, that's not the issue.
Skoo, $1,000 versus $1 million. We're talking about agenda, and we got 3 candidates. Okay, one's given $1 million, one is given 0. I think the other one's given $200. Okay, I'm going to look at the $1 million, and then looking at who's running, who's the right-hand person. is a former Democratic senator that she ran on some certain things that at one point in time, I'm sure Highland Park was a great place to be at one time, and things changed. Okay. Maybe this doesn't happen in our lifetime, but if we're looking at agenda, of the three, who would you vote on that doesn't have an agenda? I'm sorry, the $1 million sticks out like a sore thumb, and that's what I'll.
And again, I would vote on the person that, because I believe and I live here, so I believe in the process that's been successful. So I don't even have an issue with agenda because Randy was selected, and I entrust my vote when I'm asked to pick my ward representatives, that those people are going to do the right thing and vote. And they selected Randy by saying he doesn't have an agenda.
Okay.
So
Skoo,
that's not really an issue for me.
Okay, but if you did,
but you know what? If you're running against caucus, you're going to have agendas. That's why you're running against the caucus.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's kind of where I'm going with.
Yes.
Yeah. So look, we have to pick who doesn't have an agenda of the three. Okay. And like you said, the caucus weeded out Prue, maybe because of the $1 million. Who knows? Same way you said Dick Hewlett, right? Okay, so
and Paul, your buddy Paul Hammond Eggs, Paul Hammond's got he's got a position. He's working on the grass field, and he's got an agenda.
Right, but he chose not to go through the caucus process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, yes. No, he tried. They dinged him.
Oh, they just said no. They just said no. We're not going to.
Right. So maybe that's what
I don't think he's qualified for the job.
He's not qualified.
Yeah.
He's qualified to be a supporter of the show. All right, moving along